My 30F best friend Dan, 30 male, got married to Lauren, 27F, yesterday. Me and Dan have been best friends since high school, and despite always being platonic with no romantic interests on either side, his now wife Lauren has always disliked me. In 3 years of dating I have not been allowed to see Dan alone because she feels that it's suspicious that I want to hang out with him. Honestly, I just missed my friend. Despite me being happily married, she's always kept me at arm's length. I always figured this was because she's from a very conservative family. Dan has spoken to her multiple times, and after she'll back off for a bit before reverting to complaining about him being friends with a girl again. It's not ideal, but she makes Dan happy, so I made my peace with it. That brings us to the wedding. Originally I was going to be in the groom's party, but Lauren ended up crying, saying a wedding is not a place to swap gender roles. Dan was fighting her on this, but I told him I'll just attend as a guest, and not to choose this hill to die on. The dress code was warm tone garden party, and we were encouraged to wear earthy warm colors. I picked out a bronze, orange dress that I thought fit this perfectly, and the style even matched some examples they gave. In short, I thought I had nailed it. The wedding went great. However, at the reception Lauren dragged me aside and said, "I cannot believe you would wear gold to my wedding. You're not the first prize, you're just King trashy." I was so shocked in the moment I just stared at her. She practically screamed at me to leave, and she was drawing attention, so I grabbed my husband, said goodbye to Dan and left. Dan reached out after and told me he was upset I left his wedding so soon. Lauren's mom has texted me saying I ruined the wedding for her daughter and I'm stupid for wearing a gold dress. She's saying it's as bad as wearing white. I was genuinely not aware this was a thing. I want to reach out to Dan to explain, but I don't know if I'm in the wrong here. Update 1. Wow guys, I genuinely didn't know what to expect posting to strangers on this, but I am so thankful to my husband for suggesting this. I needed a non-biased view on this wearing gold to a wedding issue, and now it's clear that that was never the issue. Many of you asked if the dress I wore stood out, and honestly I know I'm biased saying this, but I genuinely don't think so. Another girl was wearing the exact same dress but in a dark red, which we had a laugh about. Slip dresses are a pretty common wedding guest dress where I am, and it was the type of dress that was recommended by the bride. I think many of you were right in saying that it was never about the dress, but how I looked wearing it. I do want to start this update by thanking my husband who suggested I post here, and been having a ball reading your comments since posting, and even posting a photo of us this morning with a caption along the lines of "my gold prize of a wife, I am winning in life, thanks to you." Turns out Dan found out pretty quickly what actually happened and called me last night. Apparently Lauren's mom had told him I was really drunk and told Lauren her dress wasn't it, so I was requested to leave. Dan had his suspicions that it was bullsh/T, but it wasn't until his mom calling him that confirmed it. Turns out she was nearby when Lauren pulled me aside and ironically was actually wearing a yellow gold dress, and tore him a new one about letting Lauren treat me like that. Dan didn't have a solution when he called. I could tell he was emotionally exhausted and pretty defeated. He said he wished I had taken it out on the open bar rather than leaving, but he understood why I left. He thanked me for taking the high road and that it hasn't gone unnoticed. He apologized for what happened. Apparently this is an ongoing fight between him and Lauren. For all of those who said Lauren just hates me, turns out it's 100% true. Apparently, she has been trying to convince Dan to cut me off because that's what a good husband does. He said he thought she had gotten over it now that they were married. I told him that he needs to focus on his happiness, and that I will always be here to support him, and that I will take a step back if that's what he needs. They were supposed to leave for their honeymoon yesterday, but when Dan called they were still at home, so who knows. I've blocked Lauren and her mom and forwarded the messages to Dan as recommended. Thanks again everyone for your comments and judgment. Link to dress, link to suggestions from the bride. Although she noted no white/pearl, Oop replying to a deleted comment, "I'm happily married, and me and Dan would rather eat glass than have anything romantic happen between us. We are just not each other's type and see each other as siblings." I genuinely don't think Dan has ever secretly liked me either. Oop, that's hard to answer. We are two totally different people. I think we are both attractive in our own way. I am your Barbie stereotype, 5'11", blonde hair with a six-pack. She's a petite brunette bombshell with a beautiful tan and a full figure. I'm also a good 2 inches taller than Dan, hence he's not my type, I'm not his. So it's comparing apples and oranges. But I do get your point. Update 2. And to the person who let me know I can simply post an update here, thank you. I had no idea how this all worked, so Lauren ended up finding the post on TikTok and was understandably pissed. She called me from Dan's phone and started screaming at me, saying I had ruined her wedding and that I knew what I was doing wearing a dress like that to the wedding. After the initial shock of expecting Dan and getting Lauren screaming, I yelled, "What kind of dress? The same cut that Amy wore? Someone else has worn the same dress, but in a different color. Fuck, I just can't win with you. Dress nicely and I'm out to get you, dress casually and I'm taking the PSS? I've tried so hard with you, but I'm done." And hung up. I messaged Dan, "I clearly can't be in your life with everything the way it is right now. Good luck. I'll always be a call away," before blocking the number, which broke my heart. That was 3 months ago and I didn't hear anything except from Dan's mother saying Lauren wouldn't stop complaining about me, and life continued. In this time I also discovered I am pregnant. Me and hubby made a post a couple of weeks ago announcing this, which its way to Dan turned up at my front door a few days after. We talked over many drinks on his end and mocktails on mine. He told me that he always thought it was the right thing to do to listen to your partner's boundaries and insecurities, and that Lauren has a lot of body image issues which resulted in her being suspicious of other women, so he thought the right thing was to support her, but he got lost in setting his own boundaries when it came to how she controlled his interactions with his friends. He said the whole situation forced him to think about her boundaries and her own personal standards, and saw that they consistently contradicted each other. Like, she believes, rightly so, that women are allowed to wear whatever they feel comfortable in, but she would complain that I was unreasonable for wearing bikinis to family beach days because it was inappropriate. Dan also realized she was trying to cut out his sister, and literally every woman in his life, including his boss, insisting he get another job. By the time he had heard about my pregnancy, he told me he didn't want to be an absent friend through this, and so had a serious conversation with Lauren. I won't go into details, but the result was that they are currently separated and both in therapy. Dan asked Lauren to move out and she is currently staying with her mom, who is apparently convinced I am the devil. Whilst I am sad for Dan's relationship having to end like this, I am happy to see that he is starting to learn what a healthy relationship is and that he will be able to be my friend through my pregnancy. My husband is excited to have his gaming buddy back. I reached out to Lauren with Dan's permission, letting her know I am here to talk in a therapy session if she felt like it would help, but I haven't received a response yet, and maybe that's for the best. I can't help but feel bad on some days, because I know that a lot of this is born from insecurity. But I am trying to focus on the positives that both of them are in therapy, and hopefully we'll move on to bigger and better things. I'm sorry if this update is a bit scattered as well. Pregnancy brain has been hitting me hard. This update has been read and approved by Dan Smiloop. Thank you. We are very excited. And while I can't talk to Lauren's motivations, I do agree that whatever issues you are going through are not an excuse to push unfair boundaries. I am in awe of Dan's strength that he has shown in the last couple of weeks. If they continue their relationship, I know it will be on better terms for both of them. Now on to the second story. Fiancé and my mom betrayed me by having a secret affair and hiding the fact that my brother is actually my fiancé's child from me. My fiancé, 25 male, and myself, 24F, have been together since we were 17-18 years old. Honestly, he was always kind, handsome, funny, and everyone used to say I was so lucky to have the whole package. I felt so lucky too. He always treated me with love and respect, so this makes everything just so shocking for me. I have always had a good relationship with my mom. It has always been her and I against the world. My dad died in an accident when I was little. We always joke we are the real-life Rory and Lorelai from Gilmore Girls. My mom dated guys on and off and they were usually cool, but nothing really past the early stages. Around 4 years ago my mom told me she was pregnant, which was a huge surprise. My mom was around 42 years old, and although she was sort of dating someone recently, didn't meet the guy but knew she went on dates, it still was a big shock. She never thought she could be pregnant at her age. She had me when she was super young, an upsie, and I can tell she was stressed and worried. I decided to support her, since she has always supported me, and tried to reassure her. She then had my brother, who is now 3 years old. I have a close relationship with my brother. I have helped taking care of him since he was born and I just love the little guy. My fiancé was also always helpful with my brother. We would take him out for ice cream, playground, pool time during summer, etc., but nothing was weird. He was just my then BF, spending time with my brother, and I now to the how I found out. My fiancé and I lived together since we finished college. My finis was not at home since he was hanging out with friends, but I was home BC. I didn't feel like going out and just wanted to chill on my sofa. At some point during being watching a series on Netflix, my laptop died and I was too lazy to go get my charger, so I just took my fiancé's iPad. I know the password but honestly never used it before. The iPad logged in and I got a bunch of messages pinging. I guess he hasn't used it in a while too? Anyways, this got my attention and I went to check it out, and OFC, I found everything. My mom's number wasn't under her name, but I recognized the number and verified it with my phone. She was telling him she felt guilty and that I should know. He said he also felt guilty but couldn't lose me, and they /backlashed it up. She said that it was unfair for my brother to never not know his dad, and that if he could live having his son around not behaving like a dad but a brother-in-law. I broke down. What the actual F? There weren't a lot of older messages, just some photos stored of my brother as a newborn, my mom pregnant, and more photos of my brother growing up in an album. I couldn't anymore. I cried for what it seemed ages, and I wait for my BF to come back home. I wish I was one of those women that can pretend and get things together before confronting the cheater, but I can't. He came back later that night, around 23:30, and I just gave him the iPad with the conversation opened and saw his face completely go pale. I asked for an explanation. When? How? Why? And he didn't want to at first, but knew he had to. Apparently a few years back while I was traveling with some friends, girls trip, my fiancé and mom had dinner together. This isn't strange since he has been part of the family for so long. Sometimes mom and fiancé would eat together at our place even if I was busy with sports or out. I did the same with his parents. Somehow, unclear how since he couldn't explain it well, one thing led to another and they ended up sleeping together. They felt guilty but apparently not guilty enough. BC They slept together 2-3 more times, using the excuse of meeting up to discuss how to tell me. Apparently when my mom got pregnant they stopped sleeping together and decided to not tell me, since my fiancé loved me and couldn't lose me and my mom didn't want to lose her daughter. So here we are now, with two of the most disgusting humans. I obviously broke the engagement, told my mom to never talk to me again and move in with a friend. I feel bad for my brother since I really love him, but I can't be around him now, I just can't. I feel like it would remind me of all those times we talked about having kids. I would be his baby mama, only baby mama. We talked about this future since we were 17 years old, so I want to puke every time I think how I was actually taking care of his child with someone else, while still having those dreams. I want to puke. Update 1. I'm still a mess, not gonna lie, but after reading the comments I felt better, like a therapy mini session. So again, thank you Al. To the update. As I was afraid I was indeed confronted near my office this week. I knew this was coming but thought maybe I had more time. My ex was the person to come find me. Yesterday, when, after finishing work and walking to where my car was parked, my ex was sort of lingering, waiting around. I thought about running, not gonna lie, but I guess in the moment I felt strong enough to get over with it, instead of having that hanging above my head waiting to be approached again. He asked if we could talk and I said yes, but I didn't feel like having the conversation over coffee like we were old friends. It felt ridiculous, so I told him to just talk right there. We were in the streets but somehow it wasn't crowded, but also not completely lonely, felt right. He basically said sorry 100 times, and that I deserved better. I agreed. He said he did love me and that he still does, but he would understand why I wouldn't want anything to do with him. He said that if I did in fact consider giving him a chance that he would go to therapy, alone or together or both, and that he would work hard to win my trust back. I told him it wasn't possible, there was too much damage. This sounds calm when I type it, but in the moment things came out more with louder tone and harsher words. Anyways, he did say that he is in the or will be. It was a bit of a blur, process of getting custody, partly, from my brother, and that he in fact does want to be a dad to him. He said he does not want to be together with my mom, that it was just a stupid mistake, sure. BC 4 to 5 times mistake is just a random thing. He couldn't explain why he did it in the first place. I think he doesn't even know himself. I asked if he cheated with someone else before. He said no, not sure if to believe it, but he sounded honest. I asked why he didn't come clean, and he said that after he did the deed he always felt panicked and it hits him that he could lose me and he just didn't want to. I told him it was meant to be found out, that what was his plan? To have my brother around and ignore their relationship forever? He said he didn't think far enough and that he was basically going with the idea one day at the time type of survival. I asked him if he felt that my mom seduced him. He said it was mutual, which made me want to puke again. I asked if he has any contact with my mom since I found out. He said yes, but mostly about my brother, didn't elaborate more and I didn't press for more info on that. He said he told his parents the day before or the day before that not sure, Tuesday? About everything. The parents were not happy but they are glad to start building now a relationship with my brother, their grandkid. Honestly, all of this felt like a punch in my stomach, I don't know why. The parents wanted to contact me but he told them to wait till he approached me first, hence why he was here. I said if he started or thought about the custody before I found out and he said no, but what I found out was like the push he needed. Great, seems I helped him get his shit together, and this past week he was arranging all of that mess, that's why he hasn't tried to see me before. He sounded and looked defeated, but the whole thing made me besides sad, angry. I was mainly depressed before but now I'm furious. I feel like he is still in an okay place and he isn't paying for his actions, beyond me leaving him. He will have my brother, his parents and others and move on with his life. While I lost everything. I hate him. We parted ways not on a happy note, and I told him to never get near me again. I was done. He asked me to see my brother still, that I was important to him and tried to guilt trip me and it worked, but I still think I can't. I don't know much about my mom and really hope she doesn't come find me anytime soon. BC I'm fuming right now and won't be able to handle it. I will be contacting my family and friends and finally doing the blasting today. I think it's about time, and after my talk with him, I got the extra push I needed. Now on to the third best story. Boyfriend sticks his fingers inside me while I'm waking up in the morning without my consent and thinks it's just a joke, very deep. My boyfriend, 19, and I, 20, have been dating for nearly 2 years. I have a really close relationship with his sister, 21. We basically grew up together and were in the same classes in school. To this day, we remain very close. She's an esthetician, and I go to her when I need something done. About 3 to 4 months ago, we were talking about skincare, ingrown hairs, etc. I mentioned that I get really bad ingrown hairs in my bikini area, and she suggested I stop shaving and start waxing because I have curly hair. I told her I wasn't comfortable going to a stranger for that, and she offered to do it for me for free. Since I didn't see any issue with it, I agreed. To clarify, I don't completely expose myself when she waxes me, I wear underwear. 2 days ago, my boyfriend and I were talking about random stuff, and I mentioned needing to wax my bikini area. He seemed surprised and said he didn't know I got waxed. He thought my pain tolerance was too low for it. I explained that it was, but sister's name is Patient, and we often laugh during the process. He made a weird face and asked why she waxes me. I responded that she's my esthetician. He was upset and said I never told him. I apologized, but honestly, it never occurred to me to mention it. I was friends with his sister long before I met him, and we are extremely close. I also thought she might have mentioned it to him. Ike. He said he didn't want his sister seeing me like that and found it disgusting and weird to do that with his sibling. I told him he was the weird one and that I'm not completely naked when she waxes me. He made it seem like I was fucking his sister, which I found gross. I apologized for not telling him earlier, but I didn't think it was necessary, especially since I don't get waxed often. I also have other friends who wax each other, and it's not a big deal. He became disrespectful and told me I wasn't allowed to talk to his sister for a while. I said he was being ridiculous and blowing the situation out of proportion. We ended up screaming at each other, and I left while crying. He knows I'm close with her, we've shared drinks and food, changed in the same room, and even given each other pecks on the mouth. He knew all this before we started dating. Now, he's texted me saying, "Not talking to you until you apologize," which I find immature. Maybe I should have told him, but it genuinely didn't cross my mind. I feel like I deserve an apology for how he treated me. So, Ida? Oop, I feel like we'll just never talk again. Then frown. It sounds so stupid and frustrating, which is why I'm upset. I just want someone to tell me I'm not overreacting because my boyfriend honestly doesn't think it's wrong. So, my boyfriend, 19, and I, 20, have been dating for about 2 years. What I mean by the title is that when I wake up in the morning and stretch, he tries to put his fingers inside my vagina. I move his hand and say stop, but he just laughs and says, "Well, your legs are wide open and you're naked." I don't think it's funny, I think it's straight up disrespectful. It's not morning sex, I'm literally waking up, stretching, then he puts a finger inside me with no warning, then he laughs and says good morning. It used to be funny the first 2 to 3 times, but it got old quickly. It's also so annoying because he usually does it when I'm waking up, so I'm still groggy and not aroused at all, which makes it hurt sometimes. At first, he said it was because I was naked and had my legs open, so I was kinda asking for it, so I stopped sleeping naked for a while. But then he would poke me through my pants. He also does it when I'm just sitting with my legs crossed, and if I don't say anything, he keeps doing it until I snap. He says I used to do it too, him, but it feels different to me. Yes, I used to touch him randomly, especially when we first started being sexually active, but not as he's waking up in the morning and not when he's visibly upset. I don't mind if he touches me, but not like this. It just feels disrespectful and objectifying. Why do I have to remind myself to keep my legs closed in front of my boyfriend? We haven't been talking much because of another issue, but I don't want to solve that and then go back to dealing with this again. I'm not the best at expressing how I feel. Does anyone know how I could make him understand that it's not okay? Edit. I'm going to clarify a few things here quickly. I didn't expect this many comments and I'm writing this at work, so I'm going fast. We waited 7 months before having sex, and we lost our virginity to each other. I knew he really wanted to do it early on in the relationship, but I was scared. He always joked that we waited too long, but I know that deep down he means it. I understand that 7 months is a long time, but also we had zero experience. We started exploring pretty quickly after losing our virginity. At first, I would wake up to him touching me and I would tell him that if he wanted to have sex, he could just let me know instead of waking me up like that. He said he was just fascinated because he had never been with anyone else before me. I thought he was just excited about having a girlfriend. His sister had told me when we first started dating that he had never talked to a girl before me, so I assumed he wasn't used to seeing vaginas in real life. It sounds stupid, I know, but I could kind of understand. I used to be excited too in the beginning because I hadn't been with anyone before either. Then he started doing the wake up thing more frequently. I laughed the first 2 or 3 times and told him to stop. He would laugh and say that I was naked, so he couldn't help it. Again, I thought it was because he was excited. The 3rd time, I told him to please stop because it was annoying and it scared me when he did it as I was waking up. He again said, "Well, your legs are open," and I got really mad and screamed at him to let me wake up first. He said it was just a joke and to relax, but I told him it wasn't funny. He stopped doing it for a while, but then he did it again another time and actually shoved 3 fingers inside me, which literally made me scream in pain. I wasn't aroused at all. We had a big fight about it, and I told him it was so fucking weird what he's doing. Like, why are we fighting about him putting his fingers in my genitals? And I did ask him once how he would feel if I just shoved my finger in his ass, and he just laughed and said to do it then. I'm going to have a conversation with him about this, but I just needed someone to tell me I wasn't overreacting. Update 1. However, he said it wasn't just that, he was also uncomfortable with the fact that I was lying down in my underwear with my legs open and her face is between my legs. I was a little grossed out because he made it seem like it was something sexual when she's just doing her job. I told him it wasn't like that and moved on to another subject because I didn't want to start a fight. I then brought up that I really didn't like how he touches me down there first thing in the morning because it startles me and hurts since I'm not aroused. He said he just likes touching me, and I responded that he could, just not in that way and not when I'm waking up. I said that if he wanted morning sex, to initiate it a different way rather than just shoving his fingers inside me. I explained that just because I sleep naked doesn't mean he can touch me however he wants. He sleeps naked too, and I don't touch him like that. He wasn't really taking me seriously and said I could grab his dick if I wanted to. I said I didn't understand why he was fighting me on this and insisted that he needed to ask before touching me like that. I tried to make him understand how much it hurts to have something enter your body with no warning. He apologized but still defended himself, saying I was making a big deal out of it, that he doesn't do it every day, he doesn't, but he's done it a lot, and that he does it because he finds it funny when I'm mad. I got pissed and called him immature, and I told him that if he does it again, I'll break up with him because I'm done. I think this made him realize the seriousness of the situation because we've always said we wouldn't mention breaking up unless we were serious. He apologized 1,000 times and called himself an idiot for not realizing sooner and promised to do better. Thank you everyone for the comments, they really helped. I understand some people might be disappointed that we didn't break up, but deep down, I really want this relationship to work. I've never been more in love before. Now he knows not to do this again, and if he does, I'll break up with him. Thank you. Edit, BTW I am 20 and he is 19 not the other way around and I'm turning 21 this summer and he's turning 20 in November edit too. I can understand by the wording that it looks like he does it every single day but it's not the case. He's done it frequently but not all the time I just want to make it clear I'm not forcing myself to stay.